smokes, Bill.
Just remember,
The OU defense cannot possibly go win a national title. They are no further ahead than they were in the Rose Bowl last year against Georgia. They have not moved the ball forward even an inch.
Well, right, and they're no more advanced or improved over where they were in the Cotton Bowl a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that
Stoops.
they would look good against the two worst offensive teams in the league.
Right.
And they did. And then we knew this would be the litmus test.
So
they're not
they limit K-State and TCU to fewer than 300 total yards in each of those games. And now we know exactly what that was. That was fool's gold is what it was. Because against Alan Bowman and Texas Tech, Alan Bowman was efficient. Alan Bowman's really good too. I got to give him credit.
Like you said, I mean, this is now twice with the collapsed lung. I really hope this is not a lingering thing because he's a special little ball player. Yeah.
In fact, I made a note as well last night that if this guy stays healthy and has a full career at Texas Tech, he's Graham Harrell good. I think he is. I think he's at the highest level of Texas Tech quarterback play. And so you have to wonder what last night would have looked like ultimately had Alan Bowman played 4 quarters.
Sure.
And I'm kind of leaning toward the same opinion, is that Kyler Murray would have found a way.
Yeah.
If the defense gets one stop in the second half, Kyler Murray's going to find a way to win that ball game, or if Bowman makes a turnover or something. But I thought that, I don't know, of the positives that came out of Lubbock, number one on my list, I mean, we take Kyler Murray so for granted around here. I do. I'm guilty of it. I mean, after the 2 picks, Caden, 460 total yards. He ran for 100, threw for 360. But I just thought Trey Sermon had a real powerful ball control.
This was a good matchup for Trey Sermon.
Yeah, it was.
When he gets going, when he's got room to get it going downhill, he's pretty special. And, you know, I've probably been guilty of saying, oh, Kennedy Brooks is their number 1 back. Hey, not necessarily. It's kind of a matchup thing, and Lincoln Riley has a really good feel for when to go to whom. And once again, I mean, probably for the 4th year in a row, we see the running game really begin to kick it into high gear as OU moves into mid-October and then November. So, and right now, 3 straight games of 300 plus is about as good as it's ever been.
Who among us would have expected post Rodney Anderson this kind of a groove for the OU run game?
Absolutely.
At the time, I thought, man, if they can figure out a way by committee to get 140 yards a game out of the rushing attack without having to rely too heavily on Kyler Murray,
I thought they'd have to run him too much.
Right. Then that's as good as you can hope for. And here's Trey Sermon stepping up last night with 200 yards, and he's scoring a bunch of touchdowns. The
offense, I mean, you're splitting hairs. It's basically every bit as good as it was with a senior Baker Mayfield running the show 1 year ago. And that's the shame of it, Bill.
Right.
Alabama and Clemson are too good.
Right. This
defense can't possibly go win the college football playoff. Maybe they could get lucky and win a game in the right match. Maybe. They could beat a Notre Dame or a Michigan or something like that. But these guys are not winning a national title. No way, no how.
No.
And I don't see the plan going forward defensively. Like the guys that they've told us are so highly touted and are going to begin to change the culture and the way things are done, I'm not seeing it yet. And so I feel like, are we nowhere as far as OU moving? Lincoln Riley is going to be a superstar, I assume, as a recruiter. And look, I now admit it. Lincoln Riley made a mistake not firing Mike Stoops as soon as they got back from the Rose Bowl 1 year ago. I wasn't necessarily of that opinion before. I know that's not a revelation to a lot of folks that are OU fans, but this needed to be done sooner.
Yeah.
They needed to take this thing in a different direction because you can't put this on Ruffin McNeil and Bob Diaco.
I didn't really ever consider it I didn't think it was like a coin toss kind of a proposition as to whether he would stand pat with either Diaco or McNeil or go outside of the program. Talking about Coach Riley. Go outside the program and really kind of blow up the culture on that side of the program and start from scratch in a complete way with an entire, most of a new staff on that side. I'm absolutely convinced now that that's what will happen. There won't be any retaining or or a status quo, moving beyond the bowl, whatever the bowl looks like.
And he and Ruffin are so tight, you can keep that resource there. But, yeah, you got to go find somebody with some new and fresh ideas. You got to find your Dave Aranda, you know, like LSU's got, and somebody who can deal with what we're seeing in the Big 12 with a more forward-thinking Iowa State and what they're doing defensively. Something like that. But the shame of it is,
you know what you
this
need?
offense now for, I don't know, 4 years under Lincoln Riley, and especially the last 2, this is as good as a college football offense can be, basically.
It is.
You know what I mean? You can't be much better than they are, and they're not going to win a national title. I'm not sure they're going to escape the regular season without a second loss. I mean, at West Virginia now becomes so much more problematic
different
to me, exactly, after they go into Austin and score the way they did. You know, can you beat West Virginia back-to-back? The OU defense we saw yesterday?
I don't see it.
I mean, I don't feel good about it. They can, but I don't feel good about it. And even then, you may not make the playoff as Notre Dame and Michigan.
You put enormous pressure on Kyler Murray, though.
Yes.
To outscore people.
That's right. He did it last night, but you're right. Without Bowman, they got lucky there. They got lucky.
You know, and it concerns me a little bit that Hollywood Brown is continuing to limp around on that ankle because he's not himself.
You're right. You're right.
And when he's himself,
still look as good as they. But yeah, no, you're right. He is. When you're talking about facing a Georgia and Alabama, somebody, or even West Virginia,
right?
Yeah, you probably need that guy at his very
best.
best.
We're nitpicking a 51-point, 600-yard performance on one side of the ball, and we're just barbecuing the other side, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
And like first thing we talked about after I arrived here was it's a good thing for OU that Alan Bowman didn't play 4 quarters because it might have closely resembled Mahomes Mayfield.
It becomes pretty much a coin toss. I still would have liked Murray in that matchup, in that shootout, but
as it was a 5-point game, and they're onside kicking.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right. So for OU, I know fans don't feel great about what happened last night, but it is a win, and you do keep your college football playoff hope alive.
They feel better than Oklahoma State's fans.
Nice segue, Bill.
Well, you've
been doing this for a while. You've learned. Yeah, roll that beautiful bean footage. That not so beautiful bean footage. Here come the kids in Waco. Baylor just had no business winning this ball game, and OSU handed it to them, Bill.
It was we watched this game on Eric Bailey's phone.
Okay.
Between Amarillo and Lubbock, we watched the last quarter and a half. And no, I couldn't believe what I was seeing all day.
What about that cowboy culture, Bill? What about, you know, we're all about doing things the right way and smart kids, tough kids that like playing football, and we don't beat ourselves.
Yeah.
133 penalty yards.
One of the in this decade, one of the better road teams in all of college football.
Absolutely.
Oklahoma State consistently good on the road, and here lately better on the road than they've been at home. But you know, we were talking before the segment about the penalties and how Gundy's better teams, his really best teams, consistently have committed between 3, 4, 5 penalties per ball game. Last week against Texas, when they were cornered and felt threatened and had to really bring their A game, they only committed 4 penalties.
Yep, they were clean. It was clean all 3 phases.
Yeah, oh yeah, and then to go to Waco yesterday to commit 12 penalties, several of which were idiotic. Like a Baylor ball carrier being a stride and a half out of bounds, and the defender,
the bondage,
bonks him in the head. For what? For what? And it's an easy flag. It's a stupid flag, but to miss 2 field goals, to have a punt block run back for a touchdown, to commit 12 turnovers. I'm sorry, to commit 12 penalties. 1 week after you played as good as you could probably play with this group of guys. And then on top of it, when you look at the final stat sheet, you wonder, why didn't Justice Hill get about 10 more carries?
This is a weekly thing.
It's unbelievable what a defiance of common sense it is week after week for the most part. With Mike Yursich and those play calls and Mike Gundy, who knows ultimately who's got veto power or who schemes it and calls it. I don't know. I'm presuming it's mostly Yursich. But every game, you look at almost every game, you look at the final stat sheet and you say, why didn't Justice Hill get more involved?
Yeah. Every single night, pretty much.
The best player on the field yesterday, undeniably. And he and Chuba Hubbard averaged a good amount of yards per attempt. And they had 28 attempts, and you wonder, why didn't they get 40? If they get 40, you'd have won the game. You would have won the game. Because they're trying to square peg, round hole Cornelius into the Rudolph offense, and it don't fit.
Yeah.
And you know what? It would fit if you would let Justice Hill be the best player on the team. I've said that on this show about 6 times. Yep. Let your best guy be your best guy.
Coaching staff and players, I just felt like the performance yesterday and especially the penalties showed they just didn't understand how important this game was. This was not a game they can afford to lose. I mean, you project a loss in Norman this week. Now you're playing with fire with regard to even making a bowl. You really could have carved out a nice little season for yourself. You could have made that West Virginia home game a really big deal.
Absolutely.
Yesterday's loss pretty much seals it that this season isn't going to be considered a success by anybody's standards around that program. Unless they can pull something crazy in Bedlam, there's just no way anybody's going to look at this OSU season and say, yeah, they did good work in 2018.
All right, so let's look at the big picture of the season. They beat Boise impressively, and they beat Texas impressively, and the rest of the season's junk. It's just junk. They beat Missouri State, who cares? They beat South Alabama, who's terrible, and then you lose to a Kansas State that I don't know how you quantify this exactly, but your personnel are infinitely better
look
than
at the
Kansas
standings.
State's.
Aren't they in 9th right now?
They're terrible.
Or tied for 8th? And you let Matt Rule, who's just getting started at Baylor, get a win like this, which helps for next year. I mean, now you got to deal with this sort of thing, you know, going forward. It just didn't look like a team that understood how important this moment was for their season.
Right.
You wouldn't go giving it away if that were the case. And I have no doubt that Jim Knowles knows some defense. But at this point, I look at it and I say, I'm not so sure another year of Glenn Spencer and the continuity wouldn't be a little bit better. There's obviously been a learning curve there with regard to implementing this defense. And he's got them playing, you know, I don't know where their head is at, but almost all those penalties were on the defense yesterday. And you got to put that on the coaches. Gundy himself says that your team tells you every Saturday what kind of job you're doing coaching. It wasn't great yesterday.
If Mark Cooper of our staff is watching right now, I think I just thought of a stat, and Mark probably already had thought of it, but that is 7 consecutive losses for Oklahoma State in games in which they were favored. Whoa. Each of their last 7, they were favored. Each of their last 7 losses were in games in which they entered as a favorite. That's
holy cow, that's right.
All 3 last year and then all 4 this year.
In Bedlam last year. That's why we bring on Bill, whether he's got the purple notebook or not. My man brings the intel. All right, the NFL's back on, so we're going to go like a minute on. Go ahead.
Real quick, you would agree, and everybody watching would agree, that game in Waco sure kicked most of the luster off of Bedlam. Dadgummit.
A lot of it, yeah.
It went from event.
A nice little
should have been an event.
Ascending. That's right.
And now it's a game.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
and like I wrote today, you know, if OU had lost last night, admission to Bedlam would have been like a towel and a bar of soap.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been devalued so much. So you know, I'm not rooting for or against anybody, but I do like big events and I like important high stakes games, and then we got that knocked out
and we got hosed last year because we should have had Bedlam in the Big 12 championship game, and that didn't matter. You're right. That's 7 straight losses that's nuts. TU goes and wins by 30. UConn might just be the worst team in the FBS, but with very few people in attendance and with rain coming down, credit to these TU kids who clearly have they haven't thrown in the towel. If nothing else, I think you can say that through all of this, Philip Montgomery has got these kids to play pretty hard. As tough as it's been, nobody likes what's happened really the last 2 years at 11th and Harvard, but it's good to see him score 49 and unload on somebody like it says on the graphic there.
I don't get a vote because I didn't attend school at TU, but I wish they'd stick with those uniforms.
Same here. How beautiful is that? That is exactly what they need.
That's the classic Tulsa look.
Classic look. It's clean, and the turnover chain. They love that turnover chain.
Well, they can keep the chain, but I'm telling you, the gold helmets are really classic.
Bill Young has done a nice job. Not that it was great yesterday because UConn's dreadful, but good to see TU get a win. And, you know, we'll see. If they can get one more, that's just a little bit of momentum going into 2019. Then you have Zach Smith at quarterback potentially. Philip Montgomery definitely gets that 5th year, as you wrote a couple of weeks ago. And we'll see.
Well, no, I've seen Zach Smith play live one time, and he threw for over 400 yards against OU. So
who doesn't?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, he did.
Alan Bowman was on his way, but
that's right. Brock Purdy, OSU and OU have really propped up some quarterbacks around the league, haven't they?
Well, you know, OU got lucky that Bowman didn't play the second half yesterday, and they got lucky that Brock Purdy wasn't Iowa State's quarterback back when they played him in September.
No doubt.
The defensive numbers could be even worse. Hey, that does it for us. That does it for the Rant. November the 4th. Bill,
I tell you what,
thank you. Even without the purple notebook. Nice job.
Kicking bottles over. And
that's right, man. That's just authentic. That's what that is.
There's another word for it, but that's all right.
See ya.
Thank you.